What's going on, all my farm apprentices? I am Mike the Farmer, here to bring you at-home tips that you and your family can use to bring your home and garden to life. Alright, and don't forget, before we get started, like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. That way that anytime I upload any content, you'll always be the first to know. Alright, so come on, let's go! Come on! In this video, we'll be discussing best watering practices for plants, best soils to use for houseplants, troubleshooting, best low maintenance plants to have, and last but not least, transplanting and propagating your plants. So stay tuned for this edition of Gardening with Mike the Farmer. Alright everybody, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, thank you for checking out my channel. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you're a returning viewer, thank you again for viewing my content. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Alright, so today I just want to do some at-home gardening tips that you can use that are pretty easy to do, low maintenance tips that you can use to grow the plants that you have and grow the foliage that you have in your yard, as well as taking it to your home garden. Because a lot of the things that you can grow indoors, you can then transplant those things and take them outside as well. So I'll be adding on more and more videos to this series, Gardening Tips with Mike the Farmer. So don't forget to be looking out for those. I'll be uploading those, the more content that I upload. Alright, so a few things are, a lot of people always want to know, how do I know when to water, or how do I know when to transplant, how do I know when my plant is having issues. So we'll try to walk through all of those. And before we even get started, always remember and know that no one has a black thumb. Alright, there's no such thing as a black thumb. It's a matter of troubleshooting any issues that you might be having as you're doing your gardening and planting, and then just learning from that and growing from that, and then taking that process to continue to grow as a gardener at home and in your home garden. Alright, so a few things. First things first, I'll actually get into watering. Watering can be really simple, and a lot of people can kill their plants at home because they do overwatering. They don't know how much to water, when to water, and things like that. And for me, I found the best way to do my watering is to get a container, and I'll show you that in a second. But if you don't do that, at a lot of the home stores, the gardening stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, even IKEA, a lot of them have self-watering pots. So you can look for those as well. Look for the self-watering pots, because that can make it easier for you and take off a lot of the stress. But one way that I found that was easy, and I'll show y'all, I just take a container. I currently use aluminum foil pans, but you can use any type of plastic container where you can put some water into that container and hold that water and put your plants in. Alright, so typically, a couple of things you want to look for. One of my plants is really dry and barren. So this is an easy way to know that your plant is ready to be watered. Alright, and I'll tell you why I let it get this dry. But if you can look at that, you see how the soil is separating from around the pot? This is an extreme amount of not watering and just letting it sit. But the difference between this house plant and some of the other house plant is that this is an aloe plant. So an aloe plant is like in the cactus family, in the succulent family. So you don't have to do a lot of watering to plants like cactus, succulents, and aloe in particular. So that's why I let this one get pretty dry before I water it again, so that I don't overwater it, because it has so much water content within the plant itself. But you always want to look for the top of your soil. When the top of your soil is dry and brittle, it's a light tannish color, it's not as dark as it normally is when you first put soil into your pot, that's when you know that your plant is ready to be watered. Alright, and you always want to check for that. And one thing that you can do is, what I do is, I take a container like this, I sit my plant or plants inside of that container if I can fit two, and I think I can fit two in here, so I'm going to add this snake plant, common house plant. Make sure that bottom is off. Yeah, I have my snake plant, and these pots have holes on the bottom, whereas some pots that you can get in the store don't have holes, and you'll have to drill your own holes in with a drill, and that's fine as well if you want to get an inexpensive pot, but you might not have a drill at home. So try to look for the pots that have holes in the bottom. So I put this into a container, And what I'll do is I'll get a glass mug or something to put some water into, and I'll add water into that container. And I'll add to only about halfway, and I typically add the water after that, because if you add water in first and then you put your plants in after it, sometimes it might be too much water and that water will spill over, and you want to try to prevent that as much as possible. But what I do is I add my plants first, add the water in after, and I let those plants sit, because what will happen is the roots from this plant, the follicles from the soil, will draw up all of that moisture and water as if it was in the ground as well, and it would draw all right on up into the roots, into the soil, and it will water itself on its own. And when you know that the plant is done, you can just come back, water it. If the water is gone, and I say come back in 2 to 3 days to see how your water is doing inside of the pan. If your pan is dry after a few days, just look at the top of your soil. If your top of your soil is still brown and looks like it's dry, add more water. Just continue to add that water, and then wait another 2 to 3 days. Come back to your plants, look at the tops of the soil, and if the top of that soil is nice and dark and rich color, and if you touch it with your finger and it's nice and moist, your plants have been watered. They're ready to go. You can take them right on out of that pan and move right on into the next plant. Now, it can be, a tedious process, but it's a very easy process that can't go wrong. As long as you're taking on this process and you monitoring that plant, your plant will get fully watered, and you do not have to worry about overwatering your plants. All right? So that is one tip I have there. And as I was saying to you all, you can get the self-watering pots as well. I don't prefer the self-watering pots because I like to do it on my own and make sure that I'm maintaining how much water I'm putting in or not. But you can get the self-watering pots. Also, with watering in general, yes, because we're going to get into soil in a second. When you're transplanting your plants, if you're starting any new seedlings, if you're starting any new plants whatsoever, you want your soil to be moist. Now, in most cases, you can get soil from Lowe's, nursery, and things like that, and they'll have bags of soil. You typically want to go for more organic brands if you can, but your Miracle-Gro and things like that. And when I do farming, I typically go on a higher scale of the type of soils and the seed starting mixes that I use, because we're growing on such a larger scale, and a lot of times the land needs more nutrients. But when you're at home, Miracle-Gro, any organic type soils, you want it to be, loose rather than dense. Those would be good for houseplants and using those. But when you want to make sure that the water content is in your soil before adding a new plant or adding new seeds, put your soil into a container and then add water. Add water, mix it up until it's moist. Add more soil, mix it up until it's moist. And you can actually do that inside of the pot that you want to transfer that plant to or put your seeds into. That way you don't have to go through the hassle of putting all of this dry soil into your pot and then watering and watering and watering and watering until all of that soil is wet. Because what happens is when your soil is completely dry, it takes it a long time. It's kind of like oil and water in a way. It takes a long time for the follicles of that soil or the molecules of that soil to take in all of that water content. So the best way to do it is just add a little soil at a time, add water, mix. Add a little soil at a time, add water, and mix. And you are sure to make sure that that soil is nice and wet for when you're transplanting your plants. Now, I'm going to go through some of the best house plants to have where they're relatively low maintenance, except for this baby right here. This one is a little more high maintenance, and I'll go through that. But low maintenance, something that you can water, bring a lot of life into your home, a lot of foliage and greenery in your home, and also filtering out all of that bare air in your home. The quality of the air in your home will improve the more houseplants that you have in your home as well. So be mindful of that as well. But a few things that we have. I have this right here. So this baby, and I use a regular dish glove to handle this one, and you'll see. This is my cactus plant. Alright, I'll just give you a nice visual of this cactus here. This plant is actually a dragon fruit cactus. It's a dragon fruit cactus. I had one from the store. I bought the fruit from the store one day, If you are familiar with dragon fruit in general, you open up or cut open that dragon fruit, it's tons of seed all over that dragon fruit on the inside. And all you have to do is just take some of those seeds out. I put it right into some soil, watered it like normal, and then I had sprouts of dragon fruit plant or cacti coming up right on out of the soil. And this is actually one of at least 3 plants that I was able to get out of that and maintain. And I eventually want to transfer this from my pot right to the outdoors, and I will have dragon fruit from that. So that's how you can just get everyday things from the market and grow that plant right at home and transfer it outdoors depending on your climate. Now here I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the Northeast, so typically the climate majority throughout the year is cold temperatures, and you want to make sure that nighttime temperatures are sustained at 45 degrees or warmer on a consistent basis for you to be planting certain varieties of plants outdoors, especially when it comes to fruit. So I want to be careful about how I'm transitioning these plants from the indoors to the outdoors and making sure I'm strategic about what type of plants that I get so that they go in with your climate. All right, now our climate zone in this area, we are zone 5, and that is a cooler climate, whereas we have summer months, we have colder months, but we have 4 seasons. Everywhere you go, they don't have all 4 seasons like we do. So you have to know where your zone is, and you can always look up growing zones in area on Google and things like that, and it will help you figure it out, and it will pinpoint where you are if you put in your zip code and address and things like that. All right, so I have that here. I also have my fiddle leaf fig. Now, fiddle leaf fig is a little more finicky of a plant because it needs to be in partial sunlight but not direct sunlight. It can't be too cold, you can't overwater it, and then you will start to have issues where you might develop disease, it might start dying and things like that. So you want to be careful about something like that. But then I have the classic water plant, and everyone has, well, most mothers and grandmothers, I would say, especially in Philadelphia, have one of these water or money plants in their home. That spade plant. That is a vining plant. Those are very easy to grow and very hard to kill if you just maintain it and water it and love and care it. And with those are easily to propagate and create new plants, similar to what I'm doing here. And this is from another plant, but it's the same principle, and we're going to get into propagating plants. All right, so now if you want to have one house plant and continue to have more and more and more and grow your plants, or grow the amount of plants that you have in your home, you can propagate them, and it's pretty easy depending on certain plants. And something like a water plant or a plant like this, what you can do is take that plant, all right, you would get you some pruners, some scissors, whatever it is that you may have at home. And remember, before you use any tools on any of your plants, even if they're house scissors, you always want to sterilize them with some alcohol or even some bleach before you start cutting on your plant, because you don't know what's transferring onto that plant. Things at home can carry all types of bacteria and dust, and that can be transferred over into your plant when you cut it, and it'll eventually kill off your plant, and you'll be wondering what it is that you did to your plant. So be mindful of that. Sterilize all of your tools first. So then I would come to my plant to where it is now. I'll try to get closer so you can see the nodes growing. Those little black dots that you see on a plant, those are nodes. Those nodes are pretty much another root that wants to develop on the plant. The closer it is to moisture and water or soil, the more this node will grow out to find that soil and moisture, because what it will do is try to develop another part of the plant from that actual root. So when you want to propagate or expand this plant, you would take a plant, this is the end of it where the new growth is, go to about midway of the plant to where you see this leaf is right about here, all right, this leaf here, and you would cut that plant on an angle right before you get to the leaf. That way it gives some extension of the plant to continue to grow once you clip it off, but gives you enough space to then put this part of the plant into some water. And I would cut here on an angle And this leaf that you see right here, I would just clip it right on off, get right on of it. That way it extends my stem. I can put all the rest of that stem into the water. Over time, once you've allowed that stem to sit into the water, you will see roots start to grow. Now I'm hoping that y'all can start to see some of those roots growing onto that plant. But roots will start to develop in your plant. Now I just recycled this water bottle that I used and had water in it. I just recycled it to put these plants in, and then what I do is I just watch. I come back after about a week or so to see how much that water level has dropped down. If it's dropped down too much or far past where the roots are growing, I just add a little more water in to allow those roots to take on that water and breathe the way that they should, and this plant will continue to grow. And now this plant is ready, after all of this time, to be transplanted into some soil, into a pot, and will create 2 more plants out of one plant, the mother plant, that it was derived from. And that's how you propagate your plant. That's how you expand your plant library. And it's pretty easy, pretty simple. It takes some trial and error. And with plants like those are much easier for you to have trial and error, where you can get more and more plant from it, and it grows pretty fast and easy. Alright? Now for a plant like this, it's a little more different when I propagate a plant like this. Now I just watered this one, so it's pretty heavy. But you can see she or he or them, they are happy. They are really, really happy. I've been trying to do a good job to maintain this plant. And this was actually a transplant from another plant that someone had given me. And I just nurtured this plant. Now this one is a little different. What I would do is, instead of clipping the plant, because it's a little harder for it to take root that way, I would go around the brim of the pot. Go around the brim of the pot. I'll bring it here in my eye level. Go around the brim of the pot, and whatever part of that plant is growing closest to that edge, I'll try to dig that plant up where the roots are. Now you will tear away some of the other root that is in the soil. That's perfectly fine, because of the rest of the plant. The rest of the plant is attached, and it will grow back on its own, trust me. But I want to go to the edge where there's some root growing, and I will use a spade or a tiller, and I will take a piece of that soil with the root system out, put that new part of the plant with the root system into that new pot, water it and monitor it, water it on a weekly basis, and you will watch that plant grow over time. Now it's not going to happen overnight, so don't expect that, oh, if I transplanted this plant, I should have a whole full new plant within 2-3 weeks. No, it can take your plant 2 to 3 months to really produce and get nice and full, like you see that plant there. But then once it's there, it will not stop as long as you maintain it and give it care. And always remember, treat your plants as if, you know, they are a friend of the family, or they are a family member. So they need love, they need care, they need attention. And be mindful about what your schedule is. Some people don't have enough time and care to be able to put into that plant because they're on the go, they're on the go, they're on the go. And I understand that. You know, we're all out here doing our jobs and rushing. But if you have the time, just be mindful. If you need to write it on the calendar, that way you can monitor your schedule. Whatever it may be, just show your plants some love and care like you would anything, and they will thrive for you. Alright? Now, other things, when you have a plant, and this one here has some on it. When your plant grows and grows and grows, all those old leaves that were on the earlier part of the plant will start to dry off and get brown. Do not worry about that. Do not throw this in the trash. Just peel those off of the side of your plant and put that right in the top of your soil. That is food for the plant, that is nutrients for the plant, and it will also maintain the moisture in your soil. The more that old foliage that you sit on the top of your plant, just like outdoors where trees are, and that's why they grow so tall. The more you add that natural element, that natural food into that soil, it will grow like no other, and you eventually, or over time, won't have to add as many nutrients to your soil as often. Alright? So that is propagating and just maintaining your plant. Now I'm going to get into a couple of more favorites that you can start indoors and take outdoors. This, alright, I'm going to get a little closer. This is my Thai basil. Alright, this is a herb. You can grow this indoors and you can grow it outdoors as well. It definitely does better and grows a lot fuller and has a lot sweeter taste when you grow it outdoors and it gets that natural sunlight. But you can definitely grow this indoors as well. I'm starting this indoors and I'm going to then transfer that outside. Look out for my video for when I go over how to transfer your plants from indoors to outdoors and acclimate them to the temperature so that they don't burn off and they don't die off. I will be creating another video for around that, so look out for that. Alright, so that is my Thai basil. I will start that indoors, put it outdoors. That's a good at home. Cilantro is a good one. Dill is another good one. What's another good one? Lavender is another good one that you can start indoors. This is borage. Borage is a type of plant. It's an edible flower, edible flower that actually tastes like cucumber. So that's a fun way to get your kids excited about wanting to be in the garden and learning more about the garden by having edible flowers and plants that they can smell and taste and bring from the garden right into the home and cook in their everyday use. So that's another one. Calendula. Calendula is it's a perennial plant. Perennials are plants that will come back every year. They will go dormant in the winter, and then once it gets warm enough in the spring, they will resprout new growth, new flowers. Calendula is another beautiful one. Zinnias. Zinnias are not perennials. Zinnias, you will have to replant those year after year, but the good thing is, if you grow them properly and catch them before they die all the way when their season is done, you can collect a vast amount of seeds from a zinnia head and have many seeds to go on for year after year. Another good perennial to put in your yard is echinacea. Echinacea is a beautiful flower. It comes in many different variety of colors, and it will produce every year after year on its own, and you won't have to do much once that first plant takes off. Alright, and then lastly, it will make to add a lot of beautiful foliage and color in your yard as well. So always research many different options that you can put in your yard. Come back for my videos. I'll be adding more and more videos to give you more info on how you can get more plants in, where you can find those plants, how you can recycle those plants and collect your seeds from the year's harvest. All those many tips and more. So I appreciate you for sticking around and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got some tips that you can use at home. Come back for my next video, and don't forget you can find me at JAKIThefarmer@gmail.com. That's JAKIThefarmer@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at MikeUniversalArtist. And you can find me on Facebook as well, Mike Jones 1983. And don't forget, like, subscribe, and share. I know you want to. Come on, farmer apprentices. I appreciate you, and I hope you appreciate this content. So enjoy your day. All you beautiful mothers out there, happy Mother's Day, and I'll see you on my next video.